On the program now, among those who attended the Supreme Court of Appeal's verdict in the Oscar Pistorius case yesterday was Reeva Steenkamp's mother, June. The court found Pistorius guilty of murdering Reeva, overturning an earlier conviction of culpable homicide. In an exclusive South African interview, June Steenkamp candidly talked to Chriselda Lewis.
Mrs. Steenkamp, thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Is this the verdict that you as the Steenkamps were hoping for?
Yes, the truth. I see this as the truth, and the success is due to the justice system and God. But this is respect for my daughter and her life also, and respect for women all over this country, because we have too much of this happening and people get away with it. And now we've seen that the justice system works. And we have respect for my daughter and her life, and how wonderful she was, and how clever she was, and all that was taken away from her. Life was taken. And the person who took the life must pay the price now. If you do the crime, you do have to do the time. I'm not really interested in how much time, but the verdict, I'm happy with the verdict. And I feel better that we have justice for her. She didn't die for nothing now and be forgotten. She won't be forgotten.
It's been a protracted legal battle.
Yes.
How has it been for you as a family emotionally?
No, it's been devastating. My whole family, it's destroyed my whole family because a big part of their life has been taken away. They were all close to Reeva, and also to mention that Reeva lost her life. Oscar's actually still alive, but his family have suffered also. You have to think of that. Two families totally destroyed because of what happened. But at least we have the truth now, and the right decision and the right judgment, and it's not up to me to say how long. I don't want to hurt him in any way. I've got no revenge. I've forgiven him, and because I'm a Christian, that's what I have to do. To move on in life, you have to forgive, and I don't wish him any harm. So that's how I feel at the moment.
Your husband, Barry, Mr. Steenkamp,
yes,
also took severe strain.
Oh, he did. He had a stroke. You know, it's just been too much for him.
Was he able to cope at all during this case?
Not really. And I didn't want him to travel because he wasn't well, you know. And I was afraid if he went to court that he would take the strain and stress, and I didn't know how he would react to being so close to Oscar in the court. So I kept him away from that. And he can't travel very well, you know, because he doesn't walk very well now.
Have you forgiven Oscar Pistorius?
I have forgiven him. And I don't wish him any harm at all. He just has to pay for what he's done and take responsibility for what he's done, that's all. But I don't wish him any harm.
What to you as the Steenkamps would be the appropriate sentence that you believe could be meted out to Oscar Pistorius?
It doesn't really matter to me, or us, Barry and I. We're not interested in now where the justice system is responsible now from taking the sentence, overturning it, and it's now a murder sentence. That's up to them now. It doesn't make a difference to me if he does 2 years, 6 years, another 5 years, or whatever. It's their decision. And it's not going to change my life because my daughter's never coming back. You have to let go of that now. You have to let go of it, and I'll just carry on with my work and if I can save one more woman, I'll be happy. You know what I'm saying?
Mrs. Steenkamp, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, powerful interview there, and words given by June Steenkamp talking about the now new charge handed down to Oscar Pistorius, and her words, "I have forgiven him and I don't wish him any harm." but the state is still going ahead, and whether or not the family have forgiven him, it's now up to the law to come and work in place here. With me to talk further about this is Michael Motsoeneng-Bill from Motsoeneng-Bill Attorneys. Michael, so we hear what's happened. We hear the sentence has been now changed to murder. This holds a minimum of 15 years. So we heard Jens Steenkamp saying, no, doesn't matter, it's in the justice system's hands.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, what needs to happen from now on, because you got to remember that the reason why, even though my view was that from the beginning, murder was established, but when we accepted that the conviction is no longer on murder but it's on culpable homicide, then the sentence that was applicable to that was not one that can be likened to murder, so it had to be a lesser sentence, and that sentence is not regulated like one for murder. Murder has a minimum sentence, and it states that if you're convicted of murder, a minimum sentence is 15 years. Now, only unless you can show exceptional circumstances can that be reduced. So in other words, there's not a lot of discretion on the part of a judge insofar as the sentence, because the minimum sentence is prescribed. But then the test is then, you must then put exceptional circumstances to impose a lesser one. So that's what would happen. So what the Supreme Court of Appeal has done, it hasn't sentenced him, it has convicted him of a different charge.
Yeah.
The sentencing is something that now has to go back to the trial court. And for that to happen, there has to be a hearing for sentence, where arguments and submissions are made in mitigation and in aggravation. But now the difference is, on the last occasion when they were sitting, those arguments were made on an understanding that it's a different conviction. For a conviction of murder, the arguments would be different, and the ask would, I imagine, from the part of the state, would be to an imposition of the minimum sentence of 15 years.
And just very quickly, we're almost out of time. Judge Masipa would have to preside over this.
That's what the law says, which is something that I personally would submit is not the best of ideas. It would, for me, be best if a different judge sat with the matter, because if I convict somebody, you must remember that conviction follows your belief as a judge. So you believe that the individual concerned didn't commit murder. That's what and the fact that the Supreme Court of Appeal has ruled otherwise does not necessarily change your belief. You may actually still hold a right to disagree with that. So I think it's placing the judge in a difficult position where you're imposing a verdict, and they must then act on somebody or the Supreme Court's decision.
So could she remove herself from it, and another judge would be appointed? Who does the
She will have to do
so
it.
It's up to her.
So what I was just saying is my personal views, but she would have to impose the sentence.
She would have to, and if she felt that she wasn't the right person, she would say no, and somebody else would have to go into that position.
It's not an easy thing to do, but yeah, she would.
Thereafter, we've got less than a minute. Thereafter, Constitutional Court, is that the last option available to Oscar Pistorius?
That is always a last option that is available to any litigant, provided that you meet the test. But in this case, I don't think even leave to appeal will be granted. But in fact, to give the benefit to the defense, I don't even think that's something that they would pursue.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you so much for your interpretation of what happened yesterday. Michael Motsoeneng-Bill Attorneys, Oscar Pistorius sitting trial again at the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. This, of course, overturning the culpable homicide verdict and making it now murder.